Live, everybody. Welcome.
Let's see now, Brain. Hold on just a second there. Okay, let's go over here now.
Welcome, everybody. Craig Bell is working on a couple details on our Facebook feed. In the meantime, we are on a Zoom live on YouTube as well, Streamlabs, courtesy of our producer at the bottom, Dave DeLeo of Tex-Mex Productions, from a urban landscape somewhere, Skyline. I love it. He's actually in Maryland, and in the top box, you'll see John Williams, our fantastic guest tonight, all the way from Center Court, Wimbledon, Southwest 19, London. Well, it's a virtual background, we can tell, but we love it.
Yep, I think we are live. I think we got it, Brain, and so I think we are on right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play Mr. James Scott Campbell, and we should be good to go. So let's see right there. All right, thanks to our At the Net podcast girl, that is the great Margot Carter, right?
That she is, Margot Carter with the voice.
Has the Queen's English, as they say,
She
right?
speaks it well.
Right, and she gave us one of those transcendent. I
feel great. I'm ready for the show.
Introduction and welcome, fans of the great game. You're listening to Season 1, Episode 82. We are back after a couple of weeks, aren't we, AJ?
It's somehow still Season 1. I love it.
Yeah, Season 1. Somehow. We didn't take a break, even though we took 2 weeks off.
That's right.
It's still Season 1. The At the Net podcast with AJ Chabry. That's you, right? AJ
What's up, everybody? And CB1, Craig Bell next to me.
All right, we're talking the great game of tennis as it seems
to us.
Thanks also go out to our good amigos at Tex-Mex Productions. That will be one Darian D. McBrayer and Dave the Brain, who was just on. Now he's off. He's kind of stealthy, so he just goes
quick.
in and out right there. Dave the Brain DeLeo from back of the house, who are on the, well, they're really not on the soundboards. He was actually making us sound good, so he got us on. So we appreciate the Brain, because he helped me move the dials and buttons to make us look and sound like real people. Not Memorex, right? We're not Memorex tonight.
We are real people.
Yep. Also, be sure to check out our good work on Fireside, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Breaker, Castbox. Remember, I have to take a breath in there. There's too many of those things. Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and YouTube. Do you like YouTube?
I love YouTube.
Yeah? It's not me too, it's just YouTube.
It's all of us,
It's all of us. Basically, all the important communication sites the kids find popular, right?
That's right.
The kids like all this stuff, don't they?
All the hip kids.
Yep. And if you're female, we are definitely female-oriented on this podcast. We like female introductions as opposed to guy introductions.
Plenty of dudes in our little company here.
That's right. We got several guys, but we've never had anyone other than a female do the intro. And if you'd like to be an At the Net podcast girl and be like the great Margot Carter, then shoot us a little email or hit us up on Facebook.
You can DM us and we'll figure out an audio file and we'll get it going.
Yep. So, all right. Speaking of transcendent.
Yes.
That's a big word, isn't it? For somebody like me from Oklahoma.
Big
transcendent.
one.
Wow. Our guest this evening, he's certainly transcendent in the world of the great game, and especially the science community as well. Very, very much, very scholarly. He's probably, I'm going to say, the smartest guy we've ever talked with on the podcast. I think even you can add mine and yours together, it still doesn't get his IQ.
The IQ is high tonight.
Yes, very, very much so. He's lowering down to our level.
He's also a tennis coach, so he's adept at that, I know.
Yep. And, he was one of the first guys to rock the sweet facial hair way back in the day. I mean, he was big even before, like, Benny Pear, James Harden, the guys who think they're really woke today.
Yeah.
This guy was woke before woke was woke.
Oh, man, I love it.
Before woke was even a word. John Williams.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here. Excited.
Oh, man, we've been looking forward to this date for probably several months now.
Yeah, and I have been, yes.
Yeah, we've been talking about getting you on. We know your son, Walt, who's a local teaching pro in the Dallas area at Huffines Tennis Center. And
fantastic guy, great tennis professional, yeah.
Yes. And so we've been talking with Walt, and he had talked to us about getting you on. We said, are you kidding? Sure, we'd love to have you.
He told us about the book, and I think you were writing it at the time.
Right.
that we talked about it over a year ago, and here you are. It's published.
Yep.
It's on Amazon, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Right. Yes. I mean, it's going to be great having you on. A little background about yourself. You were a fellow teaching pro ben with the USPTA since 1972. So your number must be in, is it double digits? You probably have
333.
333. Okay, barely in the triple digits. Yeah, I was going to say mine's 4 digits, and you have a 10.
Mine's 5.
Okay, you have 5 digits.
I got in the late 80s when I was just out of
Right.
college.
Yeah, 333. So you knew most of the guys around that really kind of started the operation back in the day, the George Bay shows of the world that really laid this
Tim
thing down.
Heckler. Yeah.
Tim Heckler. Yeah, all those guys. Even Dennis Vandermeer at the time.
Yeah.
I heard he was USPTA before. He split off with PTR.
PTR, right.
He and Dennis, or he and Tim, kind of got sideboard and kind of started his own deal. But that's another story. Yeah, but you're on the
Two South Americans.
South Africans with, they probably spoke English and
South
Afrikaans,
Africans,
didn't
I should say.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so guys that were very big in the industry back in the tennis boom days of the 60s and 70s. Yeah, you're right there in the middle of all this. It's a real honor to have you on. You also have math and physics from the University of Charleston. Wow, man, that's pretty heady stuff. So you enjoyed adding and subtracting, multiplying, gazintas, one goes into one, two goes into
Goes
two.
into.
Yeah, isn't that what Jethro Bodine did on Beverly Hillbillies? See,
I kind of enjoyed that in grade school when my third grade teacher told me how to subtract. I said, wow, that's great.
Also, now this is where the heady stuff comes in. Astrophysics, man, from Florida State, master's degree. Also, you've worked on your doctorate at Auburn in nuclear physics. So I'm going to ask you eventually, what's the difference between astro and nuclear physics? Because I'm sure there's probably a little bit of difference there somewhere along the line. Also played some unbelievable college tennis, 3-time All-American. You've been inducted in a couple of Hall of Fames where you went to college in the Missouri Valley. Coach of the Year, 77, 81 down in Florida. Your family also plays some tennis. I know you got 3 siblings. I mean, not three kids, not siblings, but one has a couple of siblings. All play tennis, yeah. Family of the Year in Oklahoma. Gosh, you've had a number of players who've done state, I'm sure, sectional, national players. You always had some great players out of Enid, Oklahoma, where I know you're from. And, you've written a book just recently that I know we're going to talk about. So you've had quite a career thus far, and probably a few more chapters to write. Right?
Well, I'm writing a second book, believe it or not. It's called The Art of Teaching. It's on the other end. Instead of the first book I wrote was about how to get better as a player, what you need to do.
Correct.
The second book's about the best way to teach. Is teaching a science or is it an art? Combination of two. It's titled The Art of Teaching. So it gives you a clue as to what I think a great instructor has to do. And I'm about halfway through that book. It'll probably be out maybe in the fall sometime.
Oh, late this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Does it have a lot of pictures? Cause I like in like 18 font, so that way, I can read, like I said, I know you didn't grow up in Oklahoma. I did. So it was, one of those things that, the Oklahoma kids, back in the day, we like a lot.
There are some pictures. I think there's a picture of Walt actually playing popcorn with some young kids.
Really?
Throwing a ball up in the air, throwing about 50 balls in the air and kids going crazy. But anyway.
So the first question we always like to start out with is what got you involved in the great game? I mean, how John Williams, where did the path start?
Well, 2 things. They built 2 tennis courts across the street from where I lived in Charleston, West Virginia. And my best friend at that time was a tennis player. And one day he said, John, why don't you come over and play some tennis? So he gave me one of his rackets and he taught me how to keep score and beat me 6-0, 6-0. And that's what got me started.
Wow.
My first goal was to get good enough to beat him. And I didn't realize at the time that he was a nationally ranked junior. And it took me until I was 16 years old before I beat him the first time.
You did get him, though. And he was your age? He was just really ahead of you in the tennis fan.
Yeah, so I was 16 when I beat him first time, and then I never lost to him after that. But that was what started me.
Did your parents play tennis?
No. Dad was a
Never did?
football player. He was an athlete, played a lot of sports, but he primarily just loved football. Played defensive tackle, played for West Virginia, played for Marshall, and played 3 years out the West Coast Army. He loved football. Good player, I guess, back in the 30s.
Was he a tall guy like you? I mean,
Yeah.
I know you and Walt are both, what, 6'5", 6'6"?
Right, 6'5". Yeah, my dad was 5'11", and most of the time I knew him, he weighed about 240.
Oh, my
He was a stout man.
Stout, strong man, and 5'11" back then was considered tall.
Yeah,
I say
so.
that with pride as a guy who's about 5'11", 6
Right.
feet. And in my day, 6 feet was considered tall. Now we are short, in tennis at least.
Yeah. So your dad was 5'11", but he was like he was a really large guy, and he played defensive. Did you say defensive lineman?
Defensive tackle, yeah.
Defensive tackle. Wow,
DT,
man,
yeah.
he must have been pretty tough.
Yeah,
I would imagine
he was.
His mindset was, and to play for West Virginia, and you said
Marshall, the Herd.
Yeah, the Thundering Herd.
One of the most famous teams in the
played
world.
3 years out in the West Coast Army. It was, back in those days, they didn't check your eligibility like they do now. So,
Yeah.
he ended up playing, I think, 7 or 8 years of college football.
Wow. Hey,
And loved every minute of it.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Did his football background translate into the way you approach tennis?
Only in that, he loved sports. He loved athletics, and I think that transferred to me. But as far as, his toughness, what he did in football, not really. I just love, I love sports. I love tennis. I love basketball, a lot of things. I played football, but I didn't play, past grade school. Played grade school football, but that was.
When you picked up tennis, of course it was with wooden rackets. What got you from age 16 beating your friend who had introduced you to the game, who was nationally ranked, to, I assume 2 years later, playing at University of Charleston?
Well, several things. My development from 12 to 16 was primarily on the wall. They had a nice wall at the cafeteria there at the junior high. And one of the courts was adjacent to that wall, and I spent a lot of time on the wall hitting. And it's a lot of time practicing my serve. And when I was 16, I got a scholarship to the Charleston Tennis Club. And there I met a pro named Jim Layton. You may know Jim Layton. He was a longtime coach at Wake Forest. Great man, great coach. I was 16 at the time. Jim was 57. And one actually hired me as, he called it a shop boy. I was a shop boy. So I swept the shop out, strung rackets, sold things in the shop. And one day he came in, he said, John, would you come out and hit one of my lessons? He said, my shoulders bother me, and I can't really. So I went out and hit with his lesson, and I think he liked the fact that I could control the ball pretty well. So he said, John, would you like to hit with all my lessons?
Wow.
And I said, sure. And so that whole summer I spent hitting with his lessons, listening to what Jim would say, to his lessons, and learned how to move on clay. It was hard true. I never played on hard true. I always played on asphalt up until the time I was 16. So I learned how to slide and move on clay and learned from Jim. And Jim would work with me, gave me 2.5 hours a week of just working on my serve, solely, just my serve. And so the time I was 18, and I went to the University of Charleston, was a pretty good server. And that was back in the days before the tiebreaker. So I used to play a lot of matches, 14-12, 11-9. I could play guys they were better than I was from the back, but they couldn't break my serve. I served volley. And, played basketball in college too. So generally Tennessee's in the summer I was in pretty good shape. So to play a set, 16-14 wasn't any big deal. In fact, endurance was kind of my forte. And when the tiebreaker came in, I was actually disappointed because this is too fast. I won't be able to wear the guy out now.
It's funny. Usually, a guy over 6'5" who has a huge serve loves a tiebreaker.
Right.
Like it's advantage you now, John. But you actually liked the long game,
wear the guy down.
the endurance. Yeah. Back then, I saw a great picture of you. Walt sent it today. It was at University of Charleston. You were absolutely cracking a forehand, and I believe.
Yeah.
And I believe you had this racket in your hand.
I think it was a Dunlop. Yes, it was.
Yeah, I saw the you can't mistake those three stripes,
Right.
and I thought, oh, I got to bring this for Mr. Williams
In
to
honor
see.
of John.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's on Flickr. I think it's I don't know where they found that, but it was back in, it's going to have been 1965.
65, tremendous.
Wow. Yeah. So that was the Dunlop Max Play 4. I never used it. I used the
You didn't. That's so funny.
Jack Kramer. I was the autograph.
You were Kramer.
Yeah.
I used the newer logo version of this. This is, as you said, from the 60s. This was my dad's. And mine it's the same racket, but little updated font. The ones that
right.
McEnroe
Yeah,
used.
because it didn't have the.
It didn't have these pointy,
like your
serifs, those
like
pointy.
you're going through the universe fast or something like that.
And Craig used this style racket. This is a Yonex. Before it was Yonex, it's a Yoneyama.
Right.
And I've done the what Craig used to do is the little bit of gauze at the bottom when you're sweating a lot.
Right. That's old school. Yeah, old school stuff. Yeah.
Hey, so tell us about what college tennis was like at University of Charleston and in general, and who you played, and what what the formats were, and what it was like.
Well, let's see. For starters, University, it was at that time called Morris Harvey College, and it became University of Charleston soon after I graduated. Our main competitor was Marshall. We played Marshall home and away. I had a good record, and didn't lose much. Lost one time in 4 years, and so. I spent a lot of time searching out Ohio, Virginia, and Kentucky trying to find somebody that could beat me, but that's kind of what I remember about it. I did lose to Marshall #1 my senior year, the only match I lost.
That's a tough loss.
Wow.
And when you say University of Charleston, I thought of College of Charleston down in South Carolina, but this is the one in the capital of West Virginia.
Correct.
Where you grew up.
Correct. That's where I'm from. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also, John. I thought Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
But no, then I said, no, that's West Virginia.
Yeah, that's
gotta
right.
be West Virginia. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting that
Well,
who was the guy that you played? Do you recall?
Yeah, who was the Marshall guy that
I
got
lost
you?
to. His name was Wayne Wookie. Wayne Wookie. He's a long-time teaching pro. I think he taught primarily in Ohio, maybe. Retired now. I was going to say that being from West Virginia, I was lucky enough to play basketball with Jerry West, on occasion. Jerry was at, of course, West Virginia University, and he come down with some, West Virginia guys. And, I was in high school at the time. We'd wait around and hope we'd get chosen, to play. And that was a lot of fun out on the playground to play with him.
That's tremendous. Jerry West.
Yeah. He was a legend. The logo.
He was the original logo, the layup, the red, white, and blue logo of the NBA.
Right.
Yeah.
And you played with the man. That's incredible.
Did you take him? Did you take him on a couple occasions?
Yeah,
Did you get past
we
him?
played horse on occasion, and there's one shot that he couldn't make. That was behind the back left.
Back left?
No, left-handed behind the back.
Yeah. Left-handed behind the back.
Behind the back lefty.
You bank it, start on the right side, and bank it off the back with your left hand.
Wow. Yeah. Playing horse with Jerry West. That's
incredible.
When we shot foul shots, you could, if you shot a foul shot, you had to swish it. Otherwise, it was a miss. There's outdoors too in the wind, so
wind,
right?
And y'all get some wind up there.
You had
in
to
the
hold your
hills
finger up before you shot.
Right. Yeah.
That's great. Hey, after University of Charleston, and you finally lost that one match, did you play in nationals, or did you go straight to playing the circuit, or what'd you do?
Well, I went to graduate school. Went to Florida State, and I played tennis on the weekends, played in the summers when I could. That was the days of sham amateurism before open tennis. It was 65, 66, and the way it worked back then is you would call the tournament director, and you would ask, are you paying any money? Are you paying expenses? Or you have housing? Do you have meals? Whatever. So if he had heard of you, then you tended to have a better situation than if he didn't know you. So, after a while, John Williams from West Virginia was maybe struck a little chord with some of the tournament directors. So it was, you called and tried to get the best deal you could. And I remember in 1965, I was in the U.S. Open and defaulted because a tournament in Cranville Hills, Ohio was going to pay me $330 plus expenses and housing for a weekend. And they weren't going to pay me anything in New York. And I was going to pay my own housing, my own everything. And there's no prize money. I mean, they give labor some before the tournament started, but they weren't going to give me any. So, yeah, you went where you could make the most money. That was kind of the way it went.
Wow, that's interesting. The U.S. Open, you'd rather play a tournament kind of locally as opposed to
the Forest Hills, yeah.
Yeah, Cranville Hills, I guess I just graduated from Mars Harvey, and Cranville Hills, Ohio was over kind of, I think, central Ohio. So it was a 5-hour car trip maybe.
Tell us about grad school.
Yeah.
FSU, master's degree in astrophysics. What's that like?
It was great. Astrophysics, of course, you think of the solar system and astronomy. That's basically what it was. And, my research area was Jupiter radio astronomy. And a lot of people don't know that Jupiter is the only planet in the solar system that emits its own radio waves. And that's what we studied. We'd go out there at midnight, and we had a little station where we measured the radio waves, the frequency and intensity and so forth. And that's what I did.
Is West Virginia the place that has the observatory where people can't have cell phones?
I don't know about the cell phones, but they have a large radio observatory in West Virginia. Yeah, Green Bank, I think it is.
Because I was watching Aerial America on the Smithsonian Channel. Yeah. I love that show, and I think if I recall that if I remember correctly, that city or little town, people can't have cell phones and for like 15 or 20 miles because it would interfere with whatever that observatory has going on, or computers or something. There's something really interesting about.
I'm sure it's the cell phone towers that can't have any cell phone towers around. So that would mean you couldn't use your cell phone. Yeah, for sure.
I've also read that's the mentally most healthy city in America.
Is he?
Yeah, right. No cell phones.
No cell phones. Right. You can't be checking these all the time.
Could be right. Yeah.
Their attention spans are crazy long.
Yeah. No, I'm sitting here. I'm looking up stuff as we're talking.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not paying attention, but I was sitting there because you got me interested about Jerry West and thinking about all these people from West Virginia. So that's why I was sitting there trying to categorize when you were in West Virginia who was around. Kind of at that time.
We had Hot Rod Hundley, was there, and Jim Thorne was there.
Yes.
Rod Thorne. I'm sorry, Rod Thorne.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think it seems like it was Jerry West, Hot Rod Hundley, and then Rod Thorne. I think all in a row there at West Virginia. So.
Yeah, that's why I was sitting there. I remember Hot Rod Hundley. He was up in Utah when I was at Weber. He was an announcer for the Utah Jazz.
Right.
He was pretty funny.
Right.
And he was a really good announcer. And he played for the Jazz, I think, for a number of years. And so he just stayed around the mountains and was their local kind of commentary guy. It was pretty fun.
Right.
There in the 80s. And he had really decent basketball player. Steve Yeager, baseball player. Probably
Dodgers in the late 70s or mid 70s,
Wore the nice sweet glasses with with Tommy Lasorda and the guys. Yeah, so I mean, when you were around West Virginia growing up, there were a lot of really fine athletes coming out of West Virginia at the time.
Right. Well, Charleston actually started. There was a man named Hugh Thompson that started a program called Tennis Incorporated, and it started about the time I was 11, 12, somewhere in there. He actually, put Charleston on the map as far as tennis. We had the first national city team tournament there. We had several national tournaments there. Jimmy Connors played at Charleston Tennis Club and Chris Everett. And Hugh was responsible for all of it. And he got a lot of kids playing tennis in Charleston. And that was the boom years for tennis in Charleston. And we had John Santrock, another player from Charleston that played at the University of Miami. And Don and I played doubles for forever. And I guess we won the West Virginia Open 5 years in a row. And neither one of us ever won the singles. So it wasn't like there wasn't any competition.
Wow, that's a good level.
The West Virginia Open wasn't just West Virginia players. It was Ohio and Indiana and D.C. and Virginia. It was all the top players came.
I thought you were going to say that tournament director was responsible for putting Chris Evert and Jimmy Connors together. Maybe that's where it started.
Maybe that's where it started.
I could have. I think Jimmy was 14 maybe, and Chris was about the same age. Two different tournaments.
This was before they danced together and got engaged at the Wimbledon Ball '74.
Yeah, I guess they would probably be about 10 years later.
Yeah, that would have been in the 50s.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I remember Hugh Thompson. He was a big USPTA pro, if I recall correctly.
No, I don't think he was ever. Well, no, that's another Hugh Thompson.
Okay, so
there's
that's Hugh Thompson, the Australian. He was a pro. Hugh Thompson was an insurance salesman in Charleston that loved tennis.
Okay.
An amateur player, and he just did amazing things for tennis in Charleston.
Just like tennis, and one of those guys that said, "Hey, I'm going to make a difference."
He was a go-getter, and he raised a lot of money and bought in instructors, and just tremendous place to grow up in tennis at that time, in the 50s and 60s.
There was a guy in Shawnee, if you remember Paul Duffield. I just remember that guy was single-handedly responsible for really putting Shawnee, Oklahoma on the tennis map. They had a lot of players in the 60s and the 70s that came out of Shawnee. And then even into the 80s, I'm sure you probably remember that Paul Duffield story. So kind of a guy probably like that. He was not a tennis teacher, coach per se. He had done some other stuff, if I recall. But I just remember all those guys that were my age from Shawnee said that, Mr. Duffield, he'd get in the station wagon. Come on, guys, let's go. We're going to go.
Trip.
We're going to go up to Enid and play the Enid Open.
Okay. He recruited guys. He recruited guys that knew how to play tennis. pros to come into Enid and teach the programs. And one of the guys who recruited was Billy Higgins, which you probably remember, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Billy and I played later. Gosh, I'm probably trying to think what year it would have been. We played a couple of times. It would have been 73, maybe 72, 73 in there. Yeah. So, and Billy was one of the instructors. We had several, big time pros come in there in Charleston, teach kids how to play.
Yeah. No, that was our paths. Bobby might have crossed it at some point. Also, my dad grew up in Lawton, and he knew Billy's dad. His dad was Sarge Higgins, and he called him Sarge.
Sarge, what a great name!
Yeah, Sarge Higgins. Yeah. That's what he called him. He goes, that's how I met Billy through my dad and his dad Sarge down in Lawton. So they called everybody by their last name or whatever rank you were. You never had a first name. You just had a last name or your rank, basically. So, but so that's great. So so what is the difference now between nuclear
physics and astrophysics?
Right.
Well, astro is really we're talking about astronomy. We're talking about planets and the stars and the solar system. Nuclear physics is what's inside the atom, the nucleus of an atom. That's nuclear physics. And at that time, Auburn had one of the first linear accelerators, so you could accelerate charged particles to a high velocity and study the impact on certain things. So that's what I did. So nuclear involves the study of the nucleus of an atom.
Inside
the tiny.
Yeah. So after FSU, you spent 3 years on a PhD at Auburn. Is that right?
Is there one that you prefer more than the other?
I think I like the astrophysics better. Yes, studying Jupiter for sure.
Jupiter, yeah. Hey, your science background is deep, and as we move from first set, which is your background, into second set, which is what you've done as your career and your current and then future projects, tell us a little bit about how the science mind and the professional tennis mind have combined to make you such a remarkable coach and author.
Well, I think your science background kind of dictates how you approach teaching tennis and how you approach playing it. You know, my philosophy of playing was I wasn't out there to trick the other guy. I was not a guy who saved shots. I was not a guy who had a lot of trickery. I basically served and volleyed, and I was serving and coming in, and I was doing the same thing every time. I hit the open court every time, hit the overhead, the open court every time, and there was no surprises. If you knew what was coming. If you could beat it, fine. If you couldn't, that's kind of the way I approached it. You know, there's a lot of guys in tennis that are a lot, let's say, trickier or craftier than I was. You know, they would save shots. Some of those guys, they'd miss the backhand down the line 3 times in a row, and then on the big point, they'd make it.
Oh, little cat and mouse.
Intentionally.
I might have been one of you guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was a straight ahead guy, you know, no tricks. I just did the same thing every game. When I was serving, not when I was receiving, it kind of depends on who I was playing. But yeah.
So we have a question here from one of the viewers right now on Facebook who's actually, this is kind of in that scientific world.
Oh, good.
All right. How do you feel about people who believe the theory that the Earth is flat?
What a great question.
Well, I mean, I think there's always a small group of people that are going to believe anything. But I mean, when you see the pictures from the International Space Station, when you see the picture of the Earth from the moon, it's pretty obvious the Earth's round and a circular ball for sure.
Yeah, it's big old, like a tennis ball.
Yeah, it's pretty
much
there's,
like
there's a whole lot of science behind proving that the Earth is round. One is you be on the ocean someplace and look out on the horizon. What do you see? Nothing. And then all of a sudden, a boat appears.
Right.
Well, how come? Well, the curvature of the Earth blocked the boat until it got close enough so you could see it. Same with land. You know, it's like if you're in Tampa, how come you can't see the skyscrapers in Atlanta? And how come the International Space Station is only visible for 4 or 5 minutes?
Yeah, it's moving. Yeah, it's definitely.
No, it's because if you think about it, here's the Earth, and you got this little satellite that's about 240 miles from the Earth, and the curvature of the Earth gets in the way. So it takes 90 minutes for the International Space Station to go around the Earth, but you can only see it for 4 or 5. And that's because the Earth's curvature, because it's round, gets in the way.
Interesting. Well, we've got Nathan Beck. You know Nathan Beck?
Sure. Remember Nathan? Sure. Great tennis player out of Enid, Oklahoma.
You coached him back in Oklahoma, he said.
Nathan had the best high school record at #1 singles in his senior year, and I don't think it'll ever be broken. He won 50-1.
That's similar to John. Wow. That's similar to John Williams' record at University of Charleston.
I don't think high schoolers will play that many matches anymore, but that amazing record. Yeah, I remember Nathan very well.
Yeah, these days a very good high school player will go something like 15-1.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Guess what their mascot is up in Enid?
The Enid what?
I know it. I
know you know it. Craig Bell is a savant, not just Oklahoma sports, but all over the country. What is the mascot?
That would be the Plainsman.
That's right.
Plainsman.
Yeah, the Plainsman. Yeah, that's a very unique mascot.
Yeah.
There aren't too many plains, even though that's out on the plain. It's more flat. It's flat. It's not curved out there, so it's pretty flat, right? Right, Coach?
That's right.
Maybe that's
where I'm curious to know what Nathan's question is.
He just we'll ask Nathan.
It was more just not really a question. He was just saying, "Hey, John coached me. Fantastic coach."
That's what he
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it.
But let's get to another question. We've got a couple really. We've got one that pertains to your book. What do you think?
Well, let's ask about. Let's go with Walt real quick, okay? Rick Eckloff, who's a frequent player over at Huffines, where Walt teaches, he goes, "What's your favorite memory of Walt's competitive tennis career?" We're going to put you on the spot.
I have I guess my favorite memory is he won the Enid Open. And he beat a fellow from Ponca City, and hit what was probably 16 or 17. Wasn't seated in the tournament. They had all the high school kids playing and everything, and won the tournament. And I remember him hitting a backhand cross court pass on a big point in that match. And one of the best matches I ever saw him play. But Walt went ahead and played college, played Cali, and played at Southern Oklahoma. I'm sure he's got a lot of matches that are memorable to him that I never saw, but the ones that I saw, that was the one that I remember.
You didn't see your own son in the tournament? Weren't you the tournament director at Enid? At the Enid Open?
I was. I saw that match.
No,
you didn't see. You didn't give him a
You
seating.
didn't give him like number 1 or 2 seed?
He didn't deserve to be seated.
What a great dad, not just a great coach.
You made him earn it. You made him earn that time.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, then that was back when he was, in his teenage years. Those tournaments were still pretty big draws, weren't they? 64, 128 guys.
They were back then. A lot of interest in Enid, so a lot of Enid players in the draw. A lot of the high school kids played it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that's probably when Phillips University was still playing, weren't they? Still probably at that time?
Yes, they were. Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was a good tennis program also too. The local university had a really fine tennis program for a number of years.
In the 90s, I guess the middle to late 90s, they recruited some players from South America, and a couple very good players.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that, and did they work with you there at the country club as well? Did you have any?
I had one of the players actually help me coach one summer. Yes, I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but he's a very nice player. I had a lot of assistant coaches that came through, a lot of Australians. A lot of coaches or a lot of players that played at Oklahoma City University that would come for the summer. Help out.
We have a future guest on our show, Jim Shaughnessy. I'm sure you dealt with Jimmy a little bit.
Yeah, well, Jim was my assistant for a year or so, and then he took over at Enid when I left. And he's now at, Jim's in Tulsa now working with, one of the tennis centers there,
didn't work with Trent Tucker.
I think it's the Tucker Tennis Center or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's a big academy, and they do send a lot of kids to the college ranks.
He's doing some interesting work.
Jim's doing a lot of good work in video analysis over there.
Yeah, we want to have him on. At some point, we've talked about getting him on.
Future guest for sure.
Yeah. But so I'm interested. How'd you get down to Florida then? So you're at Auburn. And then you didn't finish your doctorate up.
Right. Yeah. Well, I started at Florida State first. I got my master's degree first. So then I went from there to Auburn. So are you asking how I got to Auburn or how I got to Florida State?
Yeah, I guess, what transpired there, going from Florida State to Auburn. And then, I think you said that they had a good program there, but then back into teaching.
There was a couple of things that happened. I did get a NASA grant to go to Florida State, and then I got an NSF grant to go to Auburn. So those two things were big. It meant that I didn't have to pay for any of my college education, and nuclear physics was that was an important area for the National Science Foundation, and also for NASA. Very interested in astronomy, of course.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about that time. Did you ever work with NASA?
That was my goal, to eventually work for NASA. But when I left Auburn, that was late 60s. They weren't hiring. They'd really cut back on the program. It had the Apollo missions. They'd been to the moon 16 times, and they were shutting it down. So Congress was not willing to put any more money into the program, basically, is what happened.
What year was that, John?
Well, let's see. The first Apollo mission was the late 60s. So it could have been the early 70s when they kind of shut that down. I'm not sure of the exact dates. The only thing I remember, my memory is this. I was getting ready to leave Auburn, and I looked around at what I could do, where the job opportunities were. And I had an opportunity to teach at Shore and Country Club in East Norwalk, Connecticut. And I was going to make more there and at Cross Keys Tennis Club than the chairman of the Department of Physics at Auburn. So I said, well,
the chairman.
I may be in the wrong field here. I should. So I went up and taught at Norwalk there that summer, and then came down to Baltimore and taught at Cross Keys Tennis. I was the director of tennis and the manager of the indoor facility there, and just loved it. That's how I got started in tennis. Well, I got started in tennis, of course, but playing as a 12-year-old. But as far as making a career, that's how I got started.
That's fantastic. And that's during the tennis boom when, and I grew up as a child learning the game then. This is when all tennis coaches drove Porsches, right?
Yeah, I think all of them did except me. Yeah.
He's probably starting to have a family by then, so
that's right.
He had a station wagon.
Right.
He had a nice wagon. Hey, there's a great question from a reader, a listener. He asks, it's Rick Eckloff again.
Yep.
Chapter 3 of your book deals mostly with 3.0 to 3.5 doubles players, but what insight do you have, John, for the player who is 3.0, maybe 3.5 singles player? And I happen to know Rick is pretty fit guy in his 50s, and he is in love with the game and in singles. So give us your advice a little bit.
Well, the most important shot in the game is the serve, of course, and you got to spend some time practicing your serve. And then you got to pick your practice partners. Very important. You want to play people who hustle, who try, who are steady. They could be a lobber. Who knows? Maybe they just keep the ball in play. But the steadier they are, the more they hustle and concentrate, the better it is for you, whether or not you can beat them or not. The other thing that's important is that when you're practicing, you don't want to play players that beat you all the time. But you want to play players that you can beat so that you can relax and practice serve and service return, and so that you develop that winning mentality. And so what's going to happen is if you play a hustler or a lobber that you can beat, and all of a sudden you get out there that one day and it's the worst day of your life and they're playing great, that's when you learn how to play. That's when you learn how to dig down deep and find out what works for you and how you can win. And that's where you develop the mindset of a winner. And, playing people that can beat you, that's fine, but you don't get too much of it. Otherwise, you get used to losing.
This advice is gold.
Yeah.
And it's eerily similar to Dr. Richard Cohen, who had not quite your level of win and loss record, but close. He was something like 50-something and 4 in 4 years of University of Pennsylvania. And this is another big, big winner. Opposite body type to you, more of a grinder, but very similar sage advice.
Right. Yeah, I think college, having lost as little as I did, I think it really helped me when I went out into the broader world. I was used to winning. I expected to win. I mean, that was my mindset. I didn't care who it was. I didn't know them. But I felt like I should win. I think you have to develop that over time,
No, I think you do. I think you have to have a winner's mentality. I mean,
that's important. And so your practice partners are important, but you want to pick practice partners that are going to try. And I don't like the idea of people saying, well, I can't play him because he or she is a pusher. No, that's who you need to play.
That's exactly the person, or at least one of them.
That's the ideal practice partner.
I remember playing, you remember Ferris Coggins from Oklahoma, don't you, Dr. Coggins?
I don't remember. No, sorry.
So he was a really good tennis player back in the 70s and 80s. I grew up over at Woodlake, and he was a guy that if he couldn't get to the ball, he would shift over to his left hand and go right hand. He had no backhand. He had 2 forehands. Right. And the guy was he played with Ollie Gresham.
I remember that name, yes.
Yeah, Ferris played a lot with him. He's really a smart guy. He was a doctor, OBGYN, and it took me forever to beat that guy. He was always around number 1. He's top 2 or 3 guys in the state. And I played him, I can't tell you, numerous times in Oklahoma. So the thing that he always said, Craig, anytime you want to play, just call my office and say the word tennis. I'll drop whatever I'm doing. If I'm in the middle of whatever, delivering a baby, I'll come over and say what time, and then we'll make a game. And
He'll be out the door. He'll deliver the baby lefty and come in with you.
That's right. And I did that. I can't tell you how many times it took me forever to beat the guy. But just what you're saying, the point is that here's the guy. It took me forever to get through. He was a smart guy, and he wasn't going to let any point go. And just here I am, big hitting, trying to hit through the guy, and he's over there going, and smart, very crafty, knew what he had, didn't have, and just kind of played within himself. So I think you're right. You got to pick your right practice partners.
Correct.
Good stuff. Good advice for Rick.
Yeah.
Craig Bell, any other good questions from the gallery?
That's why I was looking.
Yeah.
Mary Romp. You probably know Mary.
Yes, I do.
Mary Norwood.
This is Bill's.
Yeah. He love this. John Williams is a legend in
Oklahoma and here in Texas.
Yeah.
And down in Florida.
Yes, I changed over. I was looking on here on some comments, and I was looking just down the road here. Yeah, we've had quite a few people chiming in. Let me see. Wow, sorry about that. Let me do one more here.
Yeah.
Then we'll get to maybe. That was Nick right there. Nick Smith. Right there. Well, tell us something about your other kids. We've talked about.
Yeah, we know Walt so well. We love that guy. Tell us about the other two.
Well, Shane was my youngest son, or is my youngest son. He played college tennis in South Carolina and also at college in Georgia, Augusta State, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he went to West Florida. He didn't play tennis there. A really nice high school player. He's now a fireman, works in Inglewood, Florida, and loves being a firefighter. My daughter she played high school tennis, was an all-stater. She didn't play college tennis, but plays for fun. She's now a merch planner for Ashley Furniture. Based in Florida.
Name, yeah. Hey, speaking of Florida, one of my earliest memories of you is Walt telling me that you had a qualifying round, last round of qualies for back when the Miami Open, which just ended, back when it was the Lipton in the early 80s or
83.
80s. And 83, you had a match with our friend Craig Carden, who was the first guest, if I'm not mistaken, on the At the Net podcast.
Sure.
And you two duked it out for the chance to qualify for the main draw and draw the top seed, Yvonne Lendl. What was that match like, and what was it like playing down there in Key Biscayne?
The first question is, what was the match like? Was that?
What was the match with Craig like? And then tell us about generally playing.
6'3", 7'6".
You remember it?
Yeah, I could play with him. I don't recall.
I mean, you were almost twice his age, right?
Right. Yeah, I was a little bit past my prime at 40, I guess. But anyway, I enjoyed the match, and I guess that's why I didn't try real hard, because I know it's going to have to play Lendl. You could tell Craig I said that.
Pretty well. Yeah.
That's great. Well,
did you have to play some other matches in the qualifying?
I don't remember a whole lot, but I would imagine so. But I don't recall anybody else I played or how many. What I do recall is that when I was teaching in Baltimore in the 70s, it would have been 70s, 73. Get all these dates mixed up. That was 83. So back in the early 70s, I had a student that I gave lessons to. He was about a 3.0 player, maybe 3.5. Really loved to play, but he lived in Miami. And he was always trying to get me to come down to Miami and play doubles with him against a team that he was never able to beat. And so that year, I said, okay, Mark, I'm coming down to Miami. I'm going to play in the Lipton tournament. And, line these two guys up and we'll go out and play them. So.
Love it. You were his ringer.
Yeah, right. So we went out and played him somewhere, I don't know, some clay court someplace. And as it turned out, these guys were pretty good. I mean, they were, I don't know, probably maybe well, at least 4.5 level, maybe fives. I don't know. They're pretty good. And, I wasn't able to, Mark was not able to carry me, put it that way.
Oh, that's a tough one. It's great, John. John, we've got a really interesting question from Nick. I was reading the title, even just the title of your book. It talks about modern techniques. And Nick's question pertains to that. He's asking how you feel about the evolution of the game. We're talking about strings, stroke patterns, even technique. Tell us a little bit about your view of the modern game versus what we all grew up with, the three of us, and maybe you can transition a little bit also into comparing and contrasting some very famous coaches out there like Oscar Wegener, Dennis Van der Meer, some of basically the big influences in tennis today.
Hopefully it won't influence your question too much here. It's not a book about the modern techniques. It's the modern guide. It's a difference. It's a guide to improvement.
It's a guide, yeah.
But I do talk a lot about how the techniques have evolved. Of course, different rackets, different strings. To me, the biggest change has been the Luxilon String. And a lot of people don't realize what a Luxilon string will actually do for you. Luxilon is a dead string. It's not a lively string like gut. But what it does do is when you have it strung properly and you go to hit a ball with topspin, the string slides back on the racket. And then while it's still on, the ball's still on the strings pop back, they slide back. And that extra, it's called a snapback effect, produces extra topspin. Mm-hmm. And so strong players can take huge swings at the ball, move this string down, and all of a sudden the ball snaps back off and you have that extra topspin. Well, that's why now when you see a professional is playing, you rarely see them play with the strings. Back in the old days, you hit a ball with topspin, you would adjust the strings.
You'd play a point and go straight to this.
Exactly. Yeah. And so now you don't see that because the strings slide back. And of course, they're polyester, they're smooth strings. And so you have that slippery feel. And of course, Guga, the fellow from Brazil who won the French Open 3 straight years in the late 90s?
Yeah, it was 97 was his first one. He came out of nowhere.
Now, he was the first guy to really, at the top level, use Luxilon. And to me, that's been the big advancement. Slightly larger heads, okay. The second big advancement is the forehand, the way you hit the forehand now. You start into it with a closed racket face and then open the racket face up. It's kind of like a pronation on your serve. You pronate the serve, and a lot of that extra pop comes from that good pronation. It's the same way with the forehand. That extra pop comes from that quick pronation of going from the racket face closed to open. And so the forehands become huge, particularly if you've got a tall, lanky player who's got long limbs. And the other big advancement is the down-the-line backhand. I mean, to me, if you're going to be a top pro and you don't have a down-the-line backhand, I mean, just, go home.
Whether you're one-handed or two-handed, it's so important to be able to burn somebody. Yeah,
that's the killer. And back, in the old days, down-the-line backhand was, a lot of players, you just avoided it because you felt like it was a non-percentage shot. High part of the net, short part of the court, you hit it cross court, that was safer. You hit the other guy's backhanded. So let's do that. But no, nowadays, if you don't have the downline backhand, go home.
You got to do it. You mentioned how important the serve and pronation, and you mentioned how tough it is to play a taller, lanky player with a huge serve. We've got a surprise guest tonight, a tall, lanky player with a huge serve.
Right.
His name is Walt Williams, right. And he is the son of our guest tonight, John Williams.
That's right.
You recognize this guy?
Yeah, Walt's a hard guy to play.
So, have you ever beat your dad?
We were talking about this just the other
Oh,
day,
were you?
and
Yeah.
I was freshman or sophomore in college, first time.
Really? First time, legit. It was
Legit.
legit win, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Tell him how old I
Did you
was.
do
Tell him
anything
how old I was, Walt.
ooh, uh, 50, 55. I don't know.
In there, right in between there, yeah.
Right.
I remember there was a big difference between when I was a senior in high school and after
Yeah,
1 year of college.
right.
And I think it was a combination of I got better.
Mhm.
My dad slowed down a little bit. So but yeah,
It was legit, a legit win.
It's always good when your kids beat you, though. It's always good. Good feeling.
Right. Did you have your dad serve the big serve? Because he
Yeah.
talked about the serve.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's you're a disciple of serving. Did he make you serve till your arm kind of
Yes.
fell
Yeah.
off all the time?
Yes, a lot of serving, a lot of practice serving. I mean, every a lot of days it was like, Walt, did you practice your serve today? Did you go out and hit your basket of serves today? Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes no, but
Right.
usually if it was no, I went out and did it. So,
Did some more?
but
Yeah.
it helps a lot. Helps a lot. Go out and do that.
So thinking of serves, were more the proponent of the flat serve practice, or more maybe a slice kick practice? What you?
I didn't hit the kicker at all. I hit
Okay.
flat and slice.
Flat and slice. Okay. Did you want people to practice more of their slice serve, or do you just you didn't like the different spots, or were you more like just go out and hit some serves?
You mean when I had my students practice?
Yeah, like with Walt.
Definitely hit the spots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Just put
hit
some
the
cones
spot. Hit down the tee till you make 3 in a row, and at the guy till you make 3 in a row. Out wide till you make 3 in a row. Yeah.
Sure. So that kind of stuff, and didn't matter any speed, but just
Well, you
just
start,
practice.
100 serves a day. You hit about 50 of them half speed,
Okay.
and then the next 50, go ahead and hit it. You don't want to overswing, but get in your rhythm and let it go.
So 100 serves a day. That's what you're a proponent of, basically.
Definitely. You do 100 serves a day, 5 days a week. In 2 months, you'll be better. A lot better.
Yeah. Do you do that over tough lines? Do you make people do that? You make the TCD ladies do that?
I have recommended it.
Yeah.
Whether it's done, I don't know.
Okay.
I like to tell a story of Jason Marler. He was one of the better players out of Enid. Did you ever hear of Jason?
Oh, yeah.
Jason? Okay.
Absolutely.
He and the fellow from Tulsa, what was that fellow's? God, he was Jason's age. He won the NCAA doubles down at Southern Mississippi. Do you remember him? Name?
Boy, I'm trying to remember.
But anyway, Jason, he won the national serve contest when he was 16 and again when he was 17.
2 years in a row.
And he, with a little Wilson racket, 122 when he was 16, 127 when he was 17. And he went out and practiced his serve regularly. He was probably, of all the students I had that practiced his serve religiously. And it's primarily because his mother would, be out there and she'd bring him out the course and make him do it. No, I don't know, make him do it, but sit there and watch him hit his 100 serves, every day. She was
highly encourage, highly suggest.
yeah. So,
She's gonna-
but Jason did it. And, also had Jason, I think it's important if you want to have a really big serve. Jason was like 5'11", I would say. You got to practice hitting your serve against the wall as hard as you can and try to hit the center of your racket. And a lot of players, you can lose 10 miles an hour on your serve if you don't hit the sweet spot on your racket. So get on the wall, hit it as hard as you can, aim for that spot about 2 feet above the 3 foot mark, see how hard you can hit it.
Build up arm strength, basically.
It's more timing.
Or time. Okay.
Serve is not a question of arm strength. If you watch Arthur Ashe hit a serve, his arms are about that big.
Yeah, he's a
He
thin
can
guy.
knock the crap out of the ball, but it's more of a timing thing, kind of a loose timing thing. Because strong guys can't hit the serve hard.
Right.
It's if you have long limbs and you're nice and loose and you have good timing, yeah. He hit it hard.
There was a guy in Oklahoma, I'm sure you probably saw him play, had a really hard serve. S.L. Schaffner. Remember Mr.
Yeah.
Schaffner?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I used to watch those guys play in Oklahoma City. And, man, he could smack that T2000. I think he had one of the biggest serves around. Did you play S.L.? I'm sure you did.
No, I never did.
He was one of the best
Yeah.
servers around. I just remember watching him play a lot of matches in Oklahoma City with Roger Jack, our club pro at the time.
Remember Roger? Yeah. Yeah, I didn't play. You know, when I got to Enid, I didn't play many tournaments. I mean, I played that one tournament down in Key Biscayne, but I basically was a teacher. I didn't.
Right.
When I got to Enid, I was 38, so I was pretty much just hit with the kids, teaching tennis.
Yeah, trying to get them out there and get them going right. Yeah.
Right.
So that I had a question. That one just went right past me, and just now
I have a story about hitting serves hard. Me and my dad, we would play the National Father and Son tournament down in La Jolla Beach, California.
Sure.
And so one year we were there, and I think it was our first round match, and we were playing. The son was, I believe he played #1 at San Diego State. And the dad,
San Jose.
maybe a 3-0, 3-5.
San Jose State. San Jose.
What?
San Jose State.
San Jose State, yes. And first set we did pretty good. We won the first set. Second set, the son he took over. Dad was in the doubles alley. He's not even playing.
Sitting down on the bench, basically.
Yeah. And we ended up losing the second set. And then we got into the third set. And I remember my dad coming up to me and he says, "All right, well, only first serves to this guy. Okay, to the son, it's just bombing first serves, no second serves. Because anytime he hit that second serve, he's just crushing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you double fault, we weren't going to win the point anyway. So just bomb it in.
Go.
2 serves, bomb it in, and I think that helped us win the match. We won the match, and
grip it and rip it, basically.
That's right, basically. So, but yeah.
Did you all win the tournament? Did you all
well, we won our first round match, and
we lost our second, I think.
We lost our second one, but really good competition.
Yeah, there was great competition. Walt was you were only 16, I think, weren't you? Or 15 or 16?
Yeah.
Is that on grass or clay?
Hard.
At that time, La Jolla?
That was on hard.
Oh, hard court. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you guys did you all play any other father-son events around?
We went to the one La Jolla Beach. My dad went with my other son Shane.
Mm-hmm.
I think they played the clay court one. Where was that?
Cincinnati. And we also played the indoors. I think with Cherry Hill, New Jersey. We played that too. Yes.
Did y'all do fairly well in any of those? Did you all come through, or is there? I mean, it's great competition, father-son.
Great competition.
Nothing memorable. I know we lost.
Right. Well, that's the one I remember. Us winning, and it was a close match. But I just remember that. And my dad coming to me just saying, we're just bombing first. No reason to say that.
This guy from San Jose State, he was really good. I mean, really, really good player.
Fine player.
Yeah. I mean, he was really good.
And Dad was not okay, but son was really good.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Dad, I got this. Yeah. I've seen some father-son matches on YouTube. It's kind of interesting how the sons are. I don't think they know their dad's even there. It's like 2 guys versus 1 guy playing singles, almost. Yeah.
Right.
But so I'm interested. Okay, I know what the question was. How did you get to Enid, Oklahoma? There's got to be a story about Enid, Oklahoma. Because that's not what you call the cultural center of the universe or the tennis mecca of even Oklahoma at the time. So where Enid, Oklahoma get it? How'd this come around?
Well, I taught it in Baltimore for 4 years. I taught in Florida for 5. I worked with a lot of top players in both places. We were in large metropolitan areas, and the talented players tend to rotate among instructors. They take for a couple of months from one pro and then go to another pro and then another pro, and generally to their detriment. And I got tired of, being part of that. And so I said, I'd like to go somewhere where I can be the only pro in town at the only country club in town and work with these kids through their formative years, from 8 to 18, and, try to set them on the right path. So Enid, Oklahoma gave me that opportunity. I was offered a job at Oakwood Country Club. It was the only pro in town, the only country club in town. And so if you wanted to play tennis, you basically had to come there. And that's why I moved. I didn't like the idea of being one of 500 pros in Tampa Bay area. And, I didn't like that.
That's interesting. I never thought about it from that standpoint. That Enid basically, as the old saying goes, kind of a one-horse town is what you're saying. Basically, there's not really that much. There wasn't anybody in the park.
Well, one of the problems was Enid was a football, baseball town when I came there. And so, not everybody was jumping up and down to play tennis.
Right.
So I started a program on the public courts, $8 for 8 weeks of tennis, and had it funded through United Way and the school board, and some donors funded the program, and we kind of got started that way. And one thing led to another. I think Chris Leap was probably our first top player, played at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, Matt Parrish was a top player there in Enid. And then after Chris Leap was Jason Marler. So, yeah, we fortunate to have, and of course, these players did well at the state, sectional, and national level, and got a lot of publicity in the newspaper there, the local newspaper. Of course, that encouraged other kids that, to play tennis, and just kind of snowballed from there. One of the first things I did, which I think is important for any pro in that situation, is I met with a sports writer there at the local newspaper for lunch when I first came to town. And I told him what I was going to try to do. And it seemed like an impossible thing at the time, because I told him I wanted our high school teams to win state championships. And at that time, we were competing with Jinx and some of the Oklahoma City schools, and they had nationally ranked juniors, and it looked like there was, no way it was going to happen. That was, I went there in 1980.
80.
Yeah. And, it took 8 years. 88 was the first time we won a state championship. Girls won it. And then they won it again in 89. And the boys won it thereafter. Walt was on a state championship team. So.
Yeah, and I think since then, 88 till, 2000, I don't think boys or girls ever finished worse than second. We either, won or runners up. And, by the time I was, I graduated in 97. So, kind of towards the end. But, there was, I think even a shift there in Enid is almost being a tennis town.
I'd say so.
Even as opposed to a football and baseball town. We had, by the time I was on the high school team, we'd have 20, 30 kids strive for the tennis team. To be on the tennis team was was cool.
Right.
It really was, and we had a lot of people come and try out and wanted to be on that team because we won, and the football team, the baseball team, we're struggling,
Right.
And but yeah, I think it changed.
I remember my first memory. I played a tournament in Houston. I was with my wife, and we were in Houston, Texas, and we were sitting there saying, "Do we want to go to Enid?" We were in Florida at the time. Do we want to go to Enid? And of course, we were going to go in. Was going to interview with the tennis committee, so we flew into Oklahoma City and then took a plane into Enid, and we got to the club. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening, and the wind was blowing 30, 40 miles an hour, leaves all over the court. There's 2 high school kids out there hitting with their shirts off at the club. We had 5 outdoor courts. And so that was my first look. And so I was there that summer, and by November, we completed 2 indoor courts. And building those 2 indoor courts helped sustain a program year round, and that was huge for developing players.
Yeah, when you say it's blowing 30 or 40 miles an hour, sitting there going, that's an average day.
Yeah.
Up in Enid, I didn't.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember just blowing a lot, even in Oklahoma City. Down here, they say it's windy. It's like, well, at least it always settles down at night. It never settles down
Yeah.
up in Enid, Oklahoma City. It just, the club where I teach at is named Bent Tree. It leans. That's the way they should call those clubs up in Oklahoma Bent Tree, because all the trees, there were no straight trees out there.
Now, Chris Leap is over there at Bentry now, isn't he, Chris?
He's around. He's at Lakewood. He's at Lakewood.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought he was
Yeah.
at Bentry. Okay.
Yeah, we see Leaper around. Yeah, he's down in the Dallas area, but we see him around, quite a bit. It still plays some really fine tennis. I think he was on your board, wasn't he, AJ, at one time?
He's a tremendous player. And John, how did you get the great athletes who would have excelled in, like Chris, in football, baseball, and all that, to play tennis? Walt mentioned how tennis became cool, but I want to take it back about 10 years before Walt, when guys like that you were grooming for big time tennis.
Mhm. Well, I think a lot of it was the publicity that we were getting. When our players started winning, having success in tournaments, it was publicized. A sports writer named Bruce Campbell, he was instrumental in getting publicity out. And I know we'd go to a national tournament. I would always call Chris and call Bruce and give him the results, and never failed whether they won or lost. I know Bruce told me he appreciated the fact that I would call him whether I had good news or bad news. And Chris did a great job of interviewing the kids and running pictures in the paper. And I think all that just kind of contributed to making tennis a cool thing to do in Enid.
That's fantastic, and I believe we need that in this entire nation, where at least on the men's side, where men's tennis at the pro level, and you can even say the high level, junior level, getting to Division I college tennis, we're struggling a little bit on the men's side.
That's more. To me, it's more than that.
It's even deeper.
You need to do two things. Two things need to be done if you want more Americans at the top of the game. One is you have to limit the number of foreign players that are on scholarship at our D1 colleges and universities. One per team, I recommend, to the NCAA and the USTA. In other words, it's not the International Tennis Association. I mean, I love the foreign players. That's great. But if we're talking American players, that's what we need to do. The other thing we need to do, we have to have more futures tournaments and satellite tournaments in the United States. And the USDA needs to foot the bill. They need to put up the prize money, and we have to have more of those. And if you're a young American player and you want to get points to get on the ATP Tour, you got to go to Europe. And there, the tournaments are close together. You can drive and, you can get your points there. But we need to have a futures circuit in Florida. We need to have a futures circuit in California. We need to have a futures circuit in Texas.
In the late 80s and early 90s, when I was a part of that, I felt like we had a good network of sort of a pathway between college and the pro, the big-time pro game. You look in Italy now, and we had a nice conversation with Craig O'Shaughnessy, who works with the federation in Italy, and he says it's absolutely astounding. And you don't even have to just hear it from Craig. You just look at the ATP site, and you look, my goodness, how many challengers there are in Italy. And it's all, that country is the size of the East Coast. So you can drive up and down Italy in half days. And there was one in Spain this past weekend, but there was a 250 in Sardinia, Cagliari, which is a small island in Italy, like below Corsica, France, right? So who was in it? All four guys, I believe, in the Dubs final, Italian. Two of the four semifinalists, Italian guys named Lorenzo. They have listened to John Williams about this. Have more futures, have more challengers, have more. In my day we called them satellite. In our day we called them satellite. But great advice from John Williams. That was actually going to be a third set question, but here we are at the end of the second. I love it. Good stuff, John.
Yeah, he figured it out. He knows. It was the pin circuit there for a while. There used to be, remember, about 5 tournaments around this area, in the Texas area. Austin used to have something going on. Waco, I believe, San Antonio might have had something on the pin circuit, and then on into Little Rock, St. Joe, Missouri, Des Moines, Iowa.
Right.
I think Woodlake even had a pin circuit at one time in Oklahoma City. Yeah, there were a lot of little tournaments around. You're right. Those things all disappeared for some reason.
It's because the USDA didn't fund them.
Wow.
They expected the local people there to raise the money. I know they had one in where we were members there in Innisbrook in Florida. And they went around to all the members asking for money to put into prize money. That shouldn't be coming from the members of the club. It should be coming from USTA.
Yeah, there's plenty
Plenty of money there.
Yeah. Don't get us started on that's
Craig,
yeah.
Craig, take it easy.
Yeah.
Arlington Unitarian started with the limos at every Davis Cup. I mean, we got to fund the limos, brother.
Right.
Craig, take it easy on my USTA brethren.
Right.
Got to have a nice $800 bottle of wine.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And go have
It's Thursday before a Davis Cup tie.
That's right.
$1,000 steak dinners. Right.
We're going to Mickey Mantle's.
Right. So we got a good question here real quick before we start the third set.
good.
All right. Has Mr. Williams, this comes from the Dallas Professional Tennis Association, has Mr. Williams ever come across certain players, coaches that turned out to be amazing educators and pioneers of tennis from his early playing days? So it's that's a really interesting question. Did you ever run into any certain players or coaches that turned out to be really great educators, and pioneers of the game? I think you were talking about.
I think Jim Layton was probably the most instrumental, the most important one in my life. But you're talking about in college and that and beyond.
Yeah, they even made a reference to Steve Smith over at Tyler Junior College. He was a very interesting guy with Tennis Tech. It started out that program in the 80s down at Tyler Junior College. So it was kind of an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, I like Doug Boswell and in Tulsa, and I like Lindsey Straney. He used to be there. He used to play doubles with Lindsey, an Australian. But no one. Dick Gilkey, of course, I was good friends with Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
But,
did you ever run into Vic Braden?
Yeah, I had breakfast with Vic, one of the USPTA conventions. But it would be a stretch for me to say that anybody there was a, huge influence on me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I look at more of the sum total of everybody I knew and everybody I played. But
so a question is
out one or two.
This. Yeah. Is it better to have a good program, or is it better, like say for club pros up in Enid, were you trying to make the base of players better, or were you trying to run good programs that created more play opportunities?
Well, you try to create the pyramid. The more players, the better.
Mm-hmm.
What cream will rise to the top, when you have a pyramid. Yeah, so you try to get as many players involved as you can.
Did the guys with the T-shirt or with their playing with their shirts off? Did they ever come play tennis after you got there? Did they ever
I don't recall those guys. Of course, the first thing I did was had this, collared shirt rule, in effect. And they may have left forever. I'm not sure. I didn't know where they were at the time. I mean, they could have showed up later and been those two boys. I'm not sure. I spent the first year there, going out and asking people if they were members.
John, it wasn't just a shirt rule; it was a collared shirt.
That's correct.
Yes.
Collared shirt.
Yes.
Tough.
Yeah. Well, your dad has a collared shirt on.
Yeah,
I noticed that
and
too.
you two guys
don't.
You guys have T-shirts
Oops.
on, yeah.
I'm gonna sit like this. Is that okay? Now you can't see.
Yeah, it's hard to see the collar here, but it's there.
Oh, I can see it. Yeah.
Polo.
I see that.
If my dad knew that I was coming here, he would have made sure that I wore a collared shirt here.
Right. Looked appropriate. Yeah. So before we get to the third set, tell us where you can find the book that you've written and the sequel to your first book you're going to have out. Where can anybody find your book?
Well, you can find it on Amazon. Just type in tennis improvement and it'll come right up, or tennis improvement John Williams, and it'll come right up number one. You can purchase the paperback for $14.95 and the Kindle ebook for $4.99. If you have a Kindle Unlimited, you think you can probably get a free reading. I might say about the book, or is the third set going to be about the book?
No, we're going to have we're going to have some fun questions.
I might say a couple things about the book.
Please do. Please do.
Somebody asked about chapter 3, and this is a 3.0, 3.5 player. I kind of constructed the book so after the introduction, chapter, which was chapter 1. Chapter 2 is for the 2.0, 2.5 player. Chapter 3, 3.0, 3.5. Chapter 4, 4 and 4.5. Chapter 5, and so on. Chapter 6 for the professional player. And in each chapter, I tell how you progress to the next chapter or next level, what you have to do. And it's not a book on technique. There are a lot of books out there on technique, how you hold it, how you swing it.
Yep.
This is about how much you have to practice, what you have to practice, and who you have to practice with at every level, and the important parts of every level. For example, at the professional level, you got to be able to disguise your serve, and you got to be able to read the other guy's serve. And you got to be able to study video to read the other guy's serve at the top level. Otherwise, you're going to get aced a bunch by the top players. But in each, and then chapter 7 is about the drop shot. The drop shot, in my opinion, is the most unappreciated, underused shot in the game. In the French Open this year, there was about 1,000 drop shots hit in the men's draw. In the women's, 500. There's going to be more to come. Djokovic hit 50 in his match against Nadal in the finals. And you might say, well, it was slow clay. No, more drop shots are coming on every surface, in my opinion. And they're going to come because the Luxilon racket has the ability to produce that snapback effect, which right now is not being used. Right now.
I'll never forget the match at the French Open this past October. Hugo Gaston, a 5'7" French guy, beat Dominic Thiem, who was one of the favorites to at least get to the final. And he must have hit 30 drop shots in that 4 sets.
Yeah. I mentioned that match in my book, yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, the drop shot's here to stay. But it's because the Luxilon String, if you take a full swing at a drop shot, you'll get the snapback effect, and you can pull the ball back over the net. The top pros are practicing it now. They don't have it down yet, but they're practicing it now. And the shot's unreturnable. Chapter 8 is about the training regimens of the top pros, the diets of the top pros. Chapter 9 is about myths and realities of tennis. And then I have a chapter 11 on the future of tennis, which I predict Hawkeye. I predicted that back about a year ago. And of course, it came to fruition here at the Australian. And a lot of other changes along with the one serve rule, which I think is coming in the next 20 years. The pros don't need 2 serves. Spectators don't like to watch matches where one of the players isn't trying. So, Craig, you're playing Isner. He's up 40 love. He's serving. How hard are you going to try on this point?
At 40 love?
Yes.
Oh, against his serve?
Yes.
I might walk to the other side and start serving.
How about the next game when he's up 40 love? And how about the next game and the next game? Right. And how about when he's up 40-15? You're going to give this you're going to dive for balls, right?
Let's bet. Betfair.com has got me.
I'm telling you, the spectators don't want to watch you not trying against Isner. Now, if you give everybody one serve, and now Isner's up 40 love against you with one serve, you're still in the game.
You're in there.
It's a different
one
game.
fault and a miss, 40-30.
We're going again. Yeah. We're going again.
And so we can't have matches where players aren't trying on certain points because guys 6'10" and 7 feet are hitting 140 at 40-11 and 40-15. They give the players one serve. Isner's serve is still going to be better than Diego Schwartzman's at 5'8". It's not going to be a handicap for him like you think it would be, but you're going to force Isner to play more points from the back. And that's what people want to see. They want to see athleticism, artistry, shot making. They want to see players they can identify with. They can't identify with players that are 7 feet and 6'11", hitting aces all the time. And
Do you think
the top players now are 6'4" to 6'6",
Right.
and they're going to get taller. And what's going to happen is if you're a 6'9" and you walk into a grocery store, they're not going to say to you, "Did you play basketball? Did you play tennis?"
Or pickleball? Did you play pickleball? Did you stay out
You
of
got
the
to stay underhand there.
Yeah.
But anyway, they don't need 2 serves, and then you can play 2 out of 3 sets. And the argument that the women are getting paid the same as men goes out the window. Everybody plays 2 out of 3, gets 1 serve. Now I get to say, instead of seeing 10 minutes of tennis in 2 hours, which is about what you see on average, with all the ticks and ball bounces and lets and everything else, you're going to see 20 to 30 minutes of tennis in 2 hours. And that's what spectators want.
Yeah. Speed up the game a little bit and make it more
Speed up the game a lot.
Yeah. Do you think they should show more doubles? Should people play, as we were talking about this, what's your thought on doubles play? You were serving volleyball.
Only if you're going to pay more money for the doubles. If you're going to pay more money, yeah, so show more doubles. If you offer $3 million to the winning doubles team at Wimbledon, yeah, show it. But when you offer, 1/5 the prize money, the public's not interested.
Well, where do you think it got sideward, though? I mean, or why? Do you think, because doubles used to be a part of the game that was really considered, top level. Now, all of a sudden, it's just a bunch of, I can't tell you who's the number 1 team, really. I used to know.
It's evolved that way. It's evolved that way primarily because of the prize money, because of the way the prize money is distributed. And now you lose first round at the U.S. Open, you make $60,000. You'd almost have to get to the finals to make $60,000 doubles. I don't know what depends on the prize money breakdown.
Sure. Yeah. The equality is not there for doubles, so basically it says you're second class, third class. That's
right. I mean, you would draw more top players if you had more prize money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fun to watch Indian Wells when you see Federer and Nadal play,
yeah.
and I think it's pretty cool to watch them play doubles.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. But Rafa, do you remember that match that you played against Djokovic where he's drop shotting you all the time?
Well, Craig Bell, John's point is very, very good. It was a difficult match. No, I had to run. I had to slide. No, it's going to be tough. I hope I get another chance at him in Monte Carlo this week. No, so hopefully I see you on Sunday, Novak.
And Novak, do you remember that match you played against Rafa?
I tried a little bit of everything. The data suggests that Rafa does stand 17, 18 meters behind the baseline, so the drop shot was an effective play for me.
It was a big hit, right?
Yeah.
Like Coach Williams was saying.
All my 42 fans in the stadium were applauding my drop shots that day. I had to give them a salute to all 4 corners of the stadium. Unfortunately, he handled me very, very nicely in the final of Roland Garros. So both on the court and off the court, I felt a lot of shame, but I have rebounded.
Sorry, John. We like to have fun with voices. It's called fun with voices, and that's not AJ's off camera right now, but he's got the headset on. So, all right. So we ready for the third set?
We are ready for the third
Okay.
set. Craig Bell, tell us who we're rolling with. Who's the sponsor of the third set today?
That would be the great Blair Desiree with Master Systems.
Love that guy. Love his company.
Any court resurfacing, any products, anything you might need for tennis courts. See the man, Blair Desiree. Type in Master Systems.
Even basketball and pickleball courts.
Yes, he does everything. He's a jack of all trades.
He really is.
Master of all.
Master, not just a jack.
It's not just a jack, but he does it all. So Blair Desiree, if you're local in the Dallas area, check him out. He does great work. All right, so here we go. This is why Walt came, because you know some of these answers that your dad's gonna. This is gonna be kind of fun. I'm interested to see.
Funny.
Okay, first band John Williams saw in concert.
First band?
Band, B-A-N-D.
Let's see. When I was at Florida State, the Loving Spoonfuls.
Oh my goodness, the Loving Spoonfuls. Wow, I did not. I thought you were going to say something in West Virginia or something maybe.
John Williams, do you believe in magic?
For sure.
The Loving Spoon, were they at like the, was there a convention center in?
Or was it on campus?
Yeah, it was on campus. It was actually I think a university sponsored event. I know when I was at Auburn, the fraternities used to have big time bands come in, but this was a university sponsored event.
The Loving Spoonful, man. That's not been ever mentioned on Anthony podcast.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If you could hear, are you a band person? Are you a music person? Do you like?
I like music, but I'm not really, a concert person. I don't have to have music on all the time.
Yeah, so I was wondering. That's our second or follow-up question.
I might have the music of the '60s or something on, on a CD player on the radio, in the car or something. But no, that'd be about it.
So who's your favorite band then? Who do you like to listen to if you're in the car? Let's say.
I like a mixture. Right now I'm listening to the 150 at the times hits of the '60s. I like to hear a mixture of tunes. I like the Mamas and the Papas, and I like Roy Orbison.
Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
I was going to guess like Frank Sinatra or something.
He's pretty
Frank's
good.
okay. Yeah, I like Frank.
Yeah. Mamas and Papas. Well, my mind's going back to the '60s right now. I was a product of the '60s. I was born in 1960s.
Right.
I remember the Lovin' Spoonful. I remember the Beatles.
Right.
Do you like the Beatles? Were you a Beatles kind of
Well,
guy?
yeah, I like the Beatles, and I like the Mamas and Papas better, but I like the Beatles. Okay, I liked, as I say, Elvis. I mean, everybody liked Elvis back then.
Sure.
I mean, Elvis to me is the biggest thing that ever happened in music. Beatles second. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually the Beatles' opinion. They laud Elvis as the king of rock.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So sound like you're pretty eclectic on your music that you like to listen to. Is there any rock, jazz, classicals, country and western, country or western, disco?
Currently country western I probably prefer.
Did you like the current country, or are you more like
No, the
old school
current country. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought maybe Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, or something like that way back.
No.
No, not that.
No, they got
George
crowded out by
Willie?
the Beatles and Elvis.
Who's your favorite country and western guy?
Probably Garth Brooks.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, fellow Okie, yeah, from Yukon, Oklahoma.
Yukon, just west of the city.
That's right, yeah. Ernie Abraham's, but he always tells this funny story. I don't know if you remember Ernie Abraham from Yukon. He tells a funny story about Garth. Not Walt. I'm sitting here looking at Walt, but Ernie. You know Ernie, don't you? Yeah. So Ernie was over at the tennis courts there at Yukon, and guess who was mowing the grass around the tennis courts? It was Garth Brooks. He said he was about 18 or 19 or something at the time, and he said that he looked over and goes, "Oh, hey Garth, how you doing?" He was out there mowing grass. I was like, "Wow, he came from a simple background, obviously."
And he was shirtless, and Ernie had to say, "Hey, come on,
come on,
collared shirt,
collared shirt here, come on." Yeah. All right, so last question about music. All right, this says a lot about, I think, people's personality. All right, so if you were in a band, a fictitious band, or you might be in a band, maybe, what position would you be in the band? Are you a lead singer, lead guitarist, drummer, keyboards, bass guitarist, glockenspiel player like me? I play the glockenspiel. I play a very mean glockenspiel.
Yeah, probably lead guitar.
Oh, really? Lead guitar?
Yeah.
Interesting. So, like lead guitar, who's your lead guitar that you would reference, kind of towards?
Really have a person that I would reference. I don't really.
Jimi Hendrix. He's a '60s guy.
Yeah, I guess any of those guys, the Beatles or the lead guitarist of the Beatles, was that Harrison? Was he the lead guitar?
He and McCartney both. Yeah, a little bit. They depend on the song, I believe. Who was doing what? Loving Spoonful. I'm trying to figure out who the lead guitarist was of the
I
Loving
don't even know if
Spoonful.
they had a lead guitar, did they? I don't know. But they had a
They're
drummer.
just
So they had,
yes,
what, 3 singers, I think?
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Second part. Now we're going into the second part of the third set. First paid job. First paid job. I would assume it'd be in Charleston, West Virginia. Did you have a paper route or something like that?
Yes. Yes. I had delivered the Charleston Daily Mail. I was about 12 years old. Yeah.
Did your dad have to ever go with you, like at 5 a.m.?
No.
No.
No. I was out there with the dogs running loose.
How much was the
I
Charleston?
got quite a few dog bites from my experience with the paperback.
How much was the Charleston? What Daily Times did you say?
The Charleston Daily Mail.
Daily Mail. How much did that cost at the time? Do you recall?
I recall how much I made. Penny a paper.
Penny a paper. Wow.
I had 77 papers. I got a penny a paper.
So you get 77 cents. Boy, you're making big
I
money
was.
back then, huh? You thought you were. Yeah. Come on. He was making 77 cents a day. You know?
That's
Come
big
on.
time.
That's big time. Favorite movie or TV show? Do you like to watch movies?
Yeah, I do. Well, my favorite movie growing up was Shane as a Western.
Yeah, you named your son
I
Shane.
did.
Right. Right.
Great
Alan
as a
Ladd.
young, I was like young, 10, 11, 12, whenever it came out. That was my favorite Western. I like the genre, Westerns. As far as the
Were you
current,
more of,
what's that?
I said, were you more of a Van Heflin guy, or was because of Alan Ladd?
Not so much Alan Ladd, just the whole story. It was more the story, how it affected me with, the bad guy at the end and the young boy calling out, Shane.
Jack Palance.
I like
That was Jack Palance. Yes.
I like him.
I love
like Jack Palance. But, just the whole story. Netflix, I like a lot of the old Westerns. I like Gary Cooper, I liked Randolph Scott, Wanda Fleming, one of my favorite actresses.
Yes. Did you know this role?
I liked a lot of the Westerns. I still like.
I've heard it many times. I don't know if I could
What's that?
recall the names again.
Your dad and I are kindred spirits. I watch Westerns every day on the Westerns channel.
Is that right?
I've seen every one of these. Oh, yeah. No, I love them. I go to sleep watching Maverick. I watch Maverick because I tape it every day.
Paladin was one of my favorite TV shows in Gunsmoke. Paladin was Jack. Was that
Richard Boone.
Richard Boone? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that show, Paladin.
Yeah. And the great James Arness with that Gunsmoke.
Right.
Did you know those guys?
Yes, only because I got him I think all of the seasons of Gunsmoke for Christmas
That's
gift
right.
one year.
Gee.
So,
I watched them all. I watched them all.
as
Man,
many
that's
times
like 30 seasons or something, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
It was a lot, but I remember we, being home and, it's at 11 o'clock at night and Gunsmoke's on and it's just some random episode. And I'm thinking to myself, my dad would really just like a DVD of just all of these. And he just, so.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's a kindred spirit right there. I knew I liked John for some reason. I didn't realize you were a Western. We're going to have to talk some more Westerns offline because I love Westerns. Audie Murphy, also too. I was watching some stuff he was on today as well. My wife hates it, because she knows when I go to bed, I'm watching Rawhide, Clint Eastwood back in the day. Oh my gosh. Cindy's like, Craig, come on, what's going to happen. I go, I know, but just, I don't know. There's something about, I wanted to be born in 1850 here in this area. I know exactly when I was supposed to be born and then see the West.
Well, you are 110 years late, my brother.
I know I was.
Yeah.
Man, I am just not, I came a little too late to the party.
My wife always says that she could have never made it out west in a covered wagon.
She's over here. The head went back like this. Oh my God. Your husband John and I, we're kindred spirits. Sorry about that. We're talking Westerns. All right, we're going to pull the chuck wagon around and build a fireplace, right? So, all right. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Which do you like?
Well, right now I'm trying to lose about 15 pounds, so probably dinner, probably skip lunch, and breakfast might be a cup of coffee.
So did you eat a lot when you were teaching?
Oh, when
mean,
I was
did
teaching,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
gosh, I don't know if I had a favorite. You know, I always ate at the club and ate too much at lunch.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm probably a lunch dinner guy instead of a breakfast guy. But
All right, so this leads into this next question. All right, so AJ and I always find this really fascinating. There's 4 people that you can invite, and everybody in this room, we know that you're going to invite. You're going to invite, Walt, and you'll invite AJ and myself. But 4 people, up to it can be and more of dinner guests. We're going to have the soiree, because I like to say the word soiree, and we're going to have a party, and you're going to invite some people, and they can come from any point in time, way back to present day. Who would some dinner guests be that John Williams would like to invite to this soiree?
That's a tough. I have to think about that.
I know we're not a bunch of pretty faces here. We're just, we got some substance.
I mean, it's. I don't know. I have to think about it. It'd be fun to talk to Einstein. Have him.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to talk to Warren Buffett. It'd be fun to talk to James Arness.
Yes.
Fun to talk to Clint Eastwood.
Let's also invite Zal.
I'd like to talk to. We're talking about women here. I'd like to talk to Lucille Ball. Hear what she has to say.
Brilliant comedian.
Yeah.
I was saying Zal Yanofsky is the lead singer of The Lovin' Spoonful.
Zal
Yanofsky.
Yanofsky.
Yeah, he only died about.
God bless you.
Yeah,
Gesundheit.
that's right.
It seems like I never got past "What a Day for a Daydream."
That's
a good song too. Yeah.
Got past who the people were that were singing.
For me, "Summer in the City" was
that was good.
That's a great song.
Yeah.
It was a jam. Serious. Yeah, good guitar.
Yeah. Well, that's some good dinner guests. Anybody?
I like. I was thinking about music. I really liked Roy Orbison. I liked a lot of his songs.
Yeah, amazing guy.
Yeah. Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. Yeah. Only the Lonely. Yeah, a lot of.
Yep. So Nick Smith says Einstein or Tesla.
Wow, great question.
Well, that'd be good to have.
Well, sorry, there's not. I mean, Elon Musk. I'd love to have
Elon Musk. Yeah, Elon Musk.
Yeah, lunch with him.
And he's talking Nikola Tesla.
Oh, Nikola Tesla.
Yeah. The original.
Well, I don't know. It'd be okay. Not so much. Wouldn't be in my top 5.
I like Tesla because he looks exactly like Novak Djokovic. I can't even tell the difference. I just desperately want Novak to retire and have a black mustache, and he'll just walk around like he's the original Tesla.
Do you know why they call the Tesla?
Something to do with energy, electronics?
Well, it's an all-electric car, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So does it run on AC or DC?
I see.
AC. It's got to be AC.
AC, yeah. And actually, there's a converter in there that converts DC, which comes off the lithium battery, to AC. A little more efficient. If they didn't do that, it'd be called the Edison. Because he was promoting DC.
That's correct. Yes. Did you know that one?
No.
I took a stab. I got lucky.
I think I was dropped as a child. I don't know what happened.
And left on the floor for like 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
Folks, in the 4th set, we're going to get to the bottom of that one with the great Joyce Williams.
That's right. Yeah. All right. East Coast or West Coast? I have a feeling which you're going to say, but East Coast or West Coast?
Yeah.
Florida, or are you more like Florida East Coast, or more like Maryland? Or are you going up to like Boston? I mean, the East Coast is kind of different if you think about it.
Well, Florida East Coast.
Okay. Are you okay? So now I'm going to get you on the Gulf side or on
Gulf side.
Or yeah, there we go. All right. Mountains or beach? Mountains or beach?
When I was younger, I liked the beach. Now, I think at my age, I kind of like the mountains.
Summer
there.
Mountains or winter?
Joyce and I are going to South Dakota this summer. We're going to see Mount Rushmore and where Custer had his last stand. And so, yeah, kind of excited about that. But I think, I'm not, when you're young, the idea of sitting out on the beach and sunning yourself, getting sunburnt is appealing. But now I think the mountains.
Mountains in the summertime?
It's got easier to get around, I think. We've been up in Colorado in the winter, and got a good mode of transportation. I guess it's nice. It's kind of tough to get stuck in the snow up there somewhere.
Yeah, it's not fun. I lived in Utah for 3 years. I hightailed it back down here pretty fast. I was ready to get out of that.
I have to tell you one tennis match that I played in Utah.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
I was telling Walt about this match. I was, my style wasn't the kind of style that I came back from being down, down 5-2 or 5-3. I didn't have a style that allowed me to come back in a lot of matches when I was down. But I was playing this one match in the 45 and over in Salt Lake City, Canyon Racket Club, 6,000 feet. I was down 4-2, 40 love against a left-hander from Washington, D.C., who served and volleyed. And I had broken him once in the first set. And we're in the third. And I'm down 4-2, 40 love. And I win the next 13 points in a row. And so all of a sudden, after 13 in a row, I'm serving at 5-4 in the third. It's just, you mentioned Salt Lake City. I had to. One other thing that's interesting is that, I've been to all 50 states and I've played tennis tournaments in 25 of them.
Interesting. Yeah. You've been to all 50 states and you played tennis in 25 of them, did you say?
Tournaments in 25.
Tournaments. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. I'm trying to grasp it. That's
a lot of tournaments.
That's a lot of tournaments. So Alaska, have you played a tennis tournament in Alaska? No.
That's one of the 25.
That's one of the 25 I haven't, yeah.
I was sitting there trying to figure out.
Alaska, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, no.
Well, you guys are going to have to plan a tennis tournament around the South Dakota trip.
Right.
North Dakota.
Playing the 75 and over up there.
Hey, John, speaking of Mount Rushmore, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of tennis? Who are the greatest
players?
In your Mount Rushmore.
Oh, I don't know about the greatest. I tell you the ones I like. I like Pancho Gonzalez and Rod Laver. And probably you got to like Chris Evert for sure.
She's up there.
Yep. Anybody else?
Give us a fourth.
I give 4. Let's see.
Mm-hmm. You get 4.
I like Lou Hode.
Lou Hode. Yes. The great Australian, Lou Hode.
He used our racket, the Dunlop Match Play.
Right. All white. He had a nice collared shirt. I just don't remember all of his collared shirt.
Yeah. Guy had to hurt his back, unfortunately.
Back problem. But he had the ripping one-handed backhand down the line that you were describing that's so critical in modern tennis.
Right. The men's game and the women's game. You got to have it. Backhand down the line.
So did you ever run into Harry Hopman?
Yes, one time. And I can't even remember why I was there, but I was in his apartment when he was teaching at Bardmore, I believe. And I met him and his wife, and I remember there was newspapers all scattered around everywhere.
Big reader.
I have no idea what he was reading, and I can't even remember why I was there. I don't know. It may have been asking for a job. I don't know. I just can't remember.
Yeah.
But I do remember meeting him for sure.
Yeah. Sunrise or sunset? You a morning person or a night owl?
Sunset.
Sunset. Yeah. Like looking out over the golf course, having a beverage, in Enid, Oklahoma at sunset, right?
I just thought more of an evening night person than a morning person. We lived on the beach on the Gulf side 6 years, 3 years in the early 70s, and 3 years, 2000, 2003. And we were right on the beach, and you saw a lot of sunsets, beautiful sunsets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like sunsets too. I'm not a sunrise. I'm not a morning person. All right, favorite season: summer, fall, winter, spring. What do you like?
Summer.
Summer. Like the heat?
I do better in the heat than I do in the cold.
Yeah. We had some snow around here. Snowmageddon. What was
we
it?
had an
A couple of months
actual
ago.
winter for about a week and a half.
Boy, that wasn't any
Yeah,
fun
give
at
me
all.
a hat and some sunscreen. I'll do fine in the heat.
There you go. Favorite holiday? What's your favorite holiday?
I guess I can't say Father's Day, huh?
You can.
Sure you can.
That's coming up in about a month and a
Just
half.
a
Right,
joke.
yeah.
That was just a joke.
Yeah. Expect some big gifts out of Walt, right?
That's right. Gosh, I don't know. I would say New Year's Eve.
That's a good one. You've got a few.
My wife's birthday is New Year's Day.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And 2 days later, Craig Bell's birthday.
That's right.
New Year's
Hey, we're
Eve and New Year's Day would be my two favorites.
What do you like to do in your spare time?
I like to write my book. I follow the stock market.
Oh, really? Yeah. Any quick tips that you might want to offer up, to a couple of starving tennis pros?
That's right.
Buy low, sell high.
Well, let's see. If you have Apple and Tesla, I'd sell it.
Oh, really?
If I would advise buying dividend-paying stocks that grow their dividend regularly, I would advise to get in and stay in, get a quality company and stay in it for the long pull. If you can see a company, say like Starbucks, for example, that you think is going to be around for the next 20, 30 years, jump in and stay with it.
Have you always been interested in the stock market?
I have been, yes.
Okay. Over the years?
Yes. Yeah, I bought my first stocks in my 20s.
Oh, really? Okay. And been a part of the market ever since, huh? Did you pass that knowledge on to Walt?
No,
You were dropped as a baby, right?
Walt's into Bitcoin.
That's
Oh,
right. Yeah,
there we go.
yeah.
Right.
I tried to tell my dad, you should buy some Bitcoin. He's like, oh, I don't know. I was like, well, that was
You're
a
a bigger
while back.
player.
I mean, I think I gave him good advice. He didn't
I
take
thought
it.
it sounded a little risky to me.
I still
I
don't
kind of like
understand
my
Bitcoin.
Walmart stock.
Yeah. I don't get cryptocurrency, and I heard that China was coming out with some more, and I'm like, I don't get it. That's just air. You're just kind of, this is what you're betting on. It's just air.
I would say if you think Walmart and Starbucks are going to be around for 20 years,
Mhm. Yep.
buy them and hold them.
Okay.
And any other company
like
that
that.
you think is going to be around for the next 20 years. And then after 20 years, look at them again and see, are they going to be around for another 20?
John, I'm curious why Tesla is going to go down. Is it because everybody else is figuring out electric cars?
Yes, and they don't pay a dividend, and they're too high, the multiple's way too high. And Ford and General Motors have big money to put into electric cars, and they're going to be big competition. Tesla will probably never pay a dividend, and I think it's hit its high. Apple might be a decent deal long term, but it's pretty high, and it doesn't pay much of a dividend. So I would say if you've had them for a while and you've made some money on them, sell them.
You're listening to Investment Talk with John Williams. I just want to let you know we're not talking at the Net podcast anymore, but Investment Talk, 101.
It's brought to you by Catherine T. and John T. MacArthur Foundation and viewers like you.